What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. It's about that time. It's been about a month, and nothing quite gets the juices flowing like some arbitrary MLS power rankings. I like to do mine month by month. I like to do mine with a bigger picture, macro sense. I like to do mine with tiers. So that's what we're going to do today. I also want to point out before you yell at me, and please do yell at me in the comments and everything else. That's what power rankings is here for. I'm wrong. We have different opinions, right? I could be right. I could be wrong. Who knows? I like to project forward with my power rankings. That's why I've been slower than most other people to drop Seattle and Orlando or teams that I think are good that aren't playing so well. Now that we're 8 or 9 games into the season, depending on which team you are, there's more data points. There's more reasons to worry or to be sure of a team that might be good. Also, the nature of MLS, as we'll get to in the middle, a lot of things can change, man. A month from now, a team could rip off 3 wins in 4 games, and they go from just below the playoff line to, second in the West, right? Like, that's the nature of the game. And so I don't want to write anybody off too early, and I don't want to overreact to things, but I want to give a good picture and a good macro sense. So anyway, just in case that you needed to know how the hell power rankings worked, I felt the need to explain it anyway because I'm a moron. Whatever. I'm out here in some live, breathe football heat. I love this sweatshirt. Go support good people doing good things. LBF is one of the best. Class people, class quality products. Bad model, but let's get into power rankings. MLS April power rankings, and we're starting at the bottom like usual here with tier number 1. Yikes. San Jose Earthquakes 29, FC Dallas 28, New England Revolution 27. Let's start with San Jose. They're tied for worst in MLS with 12 points dropped from winning positions. 12. They have 1 win. And a lot of these games, they have a lead at some point and lose. They're not even picking up draws. They have 1 win and 6 or 7 losses, whatever it is. They're at bottom because it's bad results and there's a talent deficiency. Just straight up. I don't know how creative or deep I can say other than I don't think this team is as talented as just about any other team in the league. They don't really have difference makers. Christian Espinoza got his flowers last year. He's not a number 1 in this league. Again, I don't mean to be mean, but if things don't go perfectly kind of around you or very well around you, when Jeremy Bobasi has kind of lost a bit of his magic, they're getting nothing really from the number 10 position, and while Pellegrino isn't giving them much, it's just a lot of average players at some positions, man. Like, they needed to do more. I feel bad for Luchi Gonzalez. Like, this might end up costing him his job, and I don't really know what else he was supposed to do with this team. They made the playoffs last year, and that's looking more and more impressive in hindsight, even though it was like 9th place or whatever. San Jose, the worst part is I don't really know how this gets fixed, if it gets fixed. Like, are they going to sign a DP number 10 all of a sudden tomorrow? I don't really think so. So, times are bleak for San Jose. I'm sorry. Number 28, FC Dallas, down 3 from last time. Unlike San Jose, I can at least see a roadmap as to how this gets fixed. Number 1, very easy, very obvious. Start Nkosi Tafari. They have a really bad central defense group. Tafari is actually very good. They're playing a back 3 and he's not starting. I don't understand. The other way, Jesus Ferreira gets fit. Peter Musa has more help around him. Israel Eloramendi gets fit, and they dictate the game the way they want to play, and they start creating more chances. That's how this gets fixed. But this is what I thought about this team last year, and this is what I thought about this team even stronger going into this year with Peter Musa and everything else and the formation change. So while I see the roadmap, I've seen it for 2 years, and it's just not happening. Nico Estevez's seat is very, very hot. If I had to do the sack race or whatever they'd call it in England, I'd put him ahead of Lucci, I think, honestly, because I think that there's more pressure and urgency at Dallas. So it's disappointing. They're very unwatchable right now. They're pretty low on my watchability rankings. As I start to chart that out, that'll come out next month. Yeah, a lot of slop here. 27, New England Revolution, no change. Hey, the good news for them, 0 points dropped from winning positions. That's great. Because they've had the lead in exactly 1 game. They have 1 win. Dude, look, I can't keep saying the same things about these same sad teams. Like, I've said the same crap about New England. Well, they have Carlos Hill. There's CONCACAF Champions Cup, blah, blah, blah. I got no more juice on this. I'm moving to the next tier. Next tier. Are these teams any good? 26 Austin FC, 25 Toronto FC, 24 Chicago Fire, 23 Sporting Kansas City, 22 NYCFC, 21 Nashville SC. We'll start up with Austin. The answer to are they any good? No, they're not. Their expected goals is 3rd worst in MLS. Their non-penalty expected goals is worst in MLS. They have the worst expected goals against by far at -8.2. This team is overperforming their underlying numbers and their baseline talent level in the eye test. And they're not picking up like a ton of points. Like, honestly, like this team, I felt like I needed to reward them for a win and taking them out of that bottom tier. But like, if I had to guess, I think that they're going to be back in that bottom tier next month. Like, it's Sebastian Driussi and not a lot of great around him. So like they've picked up points because of some special Driussi performances. But look at the results. Their only 2 wins came at home for San Jose and home to Dallas. Those are 2 of the bottom 2 teams in this power rankings. Like, nothing about this team says that they're going to be any good. This was a transition year. It's always been a transition year just because of Rodolfo Borrell taking over a lot of bad contracts, a lot of bad signings. They haven't done as much moves as I thought in the winter that they were going to. Hopefully that'll open up this summer, but they need to start making progress both in terms of roster build and on the field. Number 25, Toronto FC, down 7 from last time. Are they any good? Not really. 4 losses in the last 5 games, 3+ goals conceded in each of the last 3. And maybe we were a little too quick to buy into what John Herdman got from the team. When I say we, I mean me. I probably had them too high. -7 is probably a bit harsh. I shouldn't have overrated them in the first place, I think. Like, look, you can still see the upside with Insigne and Larea coming back at some point from injuries. And maybe there's more investment coming in the summer with U22 initiatives or a DP spot, whatever it is. But Insigne and Larea are always hurt, so that's not a big surprise. And this team could have added a young DP at any point over the last year or year and a half, whatever, and they haven't. So maybe not. Maybe the investment isn't coming. Maybe we should stop hoping and saying things like maybe and if and just look at the facts on the field, and they haven't been very good over the last month. And again, like, it's a weird thing that I don't really want to pile on because this isn't a necessary, like, they're already doing better than we thought they would. But, you know, a month ago, we were like, oh, maybe this team could challenge for the playoffs. Maybe they can, but I'm not so sure. Number 24, Chicago Fire, no change from last time. Are they good? I don't know. This is a typical Chicago Fire season. They're not awful, but they're not, like, good, right? They're always weird. This team is always weird. Of course they played in that crazy 4-3 game against Montreal in a wind tunnel. Of course they beat the Dynamo randomly when the Dynamo have been one of the most impressive teams in the league. They're middle of the pack in expected goals, which is honestly better than I thought they'd be because I think this team is dying out for a big-time chance creator. The positive side, I think this new DP rule will help them a lot. So teams can now have 3 senior DPs and 3 U22 initiative slots, or if they do 2, they can have 4 U22s, whatever. It opens up more room for discretionary spend. And for all of the critiques of Chicago Fire over the past decade, honestly, but particularly under Joe Mansueto, investment ain't an issue. Investment ain't a worry. So if they have another DP spot, and now they can do an extra buyout, which would have helped with, you know, Shabilko and Jairo Torres, and like, this team would have used both buyouts. They don't care about spending more money, which is good. That's ambitious, but the signings haven't been great. If they sign a senior DP number 10 this summer and they get it right, watch out. If Shaqiri leaves and they can bring in another DP, like, at some point, if you keep throwing money at the problem, it's going to work out. Like, Hugo Kuipers looks pretty good. I don't know if he was worth the $12 million, but we'll see when he gets a real chance creator around him. So, Chicago Fire, there's a little optimism there. I got to be careful, though. It's the hope that kills you. Number 23, Sporting Kansas City. They're tied for worst in MLS in points dropped from winning positions. I can talk. I'm a broadcaster. I'm an order here, writer. Sporting Kansas City have dropped 12 points from winning positions. That's tied for the most in MLS. And that's why I have them as low as I do. I just straight up don't really believe in this team. I liked the idea of Alan Pulido as a number 10 to get Willie Agata and him on the field together. And it could make sense, and maybe it will make sense. But it's really not working. They could really use a real DP number 10. And again, I'm so worried about their defensive depth. And, like, this is a team that, like, I think that they're going to be competitive. I just don't think that they're all that good, right? Like, there's a lot of slop in, like, the middle. Like, there's a lot of fluidity, I would say, probably from Chicago at 24 down to, like, 11 when we get to there in the power rankings. I think that this is a lower tier. But, like, again, if Sporting Kansas City, they could rip off some results like they did last year. It's just with the other, I guess, 12 or 13 teams in this group, I just don't think that they're better than some of them. But, hey, MLS is MLS. We'll see. 22 NYCFC, up 3 from last time. A respectable 1 win, 2 draws, and a loss in the last 4 games, which came against Cincy, Miami, Atlanta, and New England. 3 very good teams, 1 very bad team. So they're not setting the world on fire, but, like, they needed to stabilize over this period, and they did. The talent is still there. I think the new rules could help them, too, with another U22 slot to invest in, right, or whatever they want to do. I'm kind of confounded about how bad it's been in attack under Nick Cushing this whole time. Like, he's got a little bit of pressure off of him thanks to a win. Again, but that's against New England, right? Like, his seat's extremely hot. There's going to be pressure around this team. But again, the nucleus of James Sands, Keaton Park, Santi Rodriguez as like your center, as like your engine room, that makes so much sense to me. They have a lot of really good young wingers. Center forward is a big issue. Like, I think they have good center backs. Like, this team is too talented to be where they are right now. So that's kind of where I see the upside. Number 21, Nashville SC, down 9 from last time. I generally believe in this team, but Walker Zimmerman coming back alone won't just fix this mess. How did they get Hani Mukhtar cooking again? He's got a new contract, no excuses in like the personal, like you could say his mind, like Nashville was taking care of him. Now Hani has to go back to taking care of Nashville. Why is the defense slipping? I don't think that, like, they've done better in the past whenever Zimmerman hasn't been available. Is it the defensive midfield pairing? Is it that they're trying to be more expansive? I don't know. They're bottom third in goals against and bottom third in expected goals against. They're bottom third in goals and bottom third in expected goals. Breaking analysis, that is not a good combination. Again, I still hold out hope for what they've done over the past 4 years and the talent level of Hani and Zimmerman and the idea of Sam Surridge at least. But it's worrying times, and that's why they've dropped this low. They really needed their bye week this week. Oh my God, they needed their bye week. Next tier, 2 teams. Are they waking up, or is this just a false start? Seattle Sounders, number 20. Orlando City, number 19. Seattle down 6 from last time. They picked up a big win against Montreal on Montreal's kind of look-ahead game to end their long road trip to start the season. It was a very useful 5-0 game, or whatever the game was. They scored 5 goals. They needed that attacking explosion. The pieces all make sense. There's a lot of familiar figures from teams that have been very good for the Seattle Sounders in the past. So that's why I still would believe in them. But a couple set of facts. They're the only team that the San Jose Earthquakes did not lose to this year. Seattle tied 0-0 at home to Austin, and they tied 0-0 at Dallas. Not great, right? Not great. Like, it's not going to get any easier than a couple of those games, and they haven't picked up those points. Number 19, Orlando City. Down 4, but they've stabilized a little bit. Their last 3, they beat DC United, they drew the Red Bulls at home, and they beat Austin FC. So maybe they're waking up. The win against Austin was expected and needed to happen. The win at DC was, I think, a pleasant surprise just based on they went down 1-0 very, very early in the game. And the draw versus the Red Bulls, honestly, they should have lost that game. But hey, a point's a point, right? Like, sometimes you get lucky, sometimes you get unlucky. I still don't understand what the hell's up with Luis Muriel. He does not look like he can run very much. And they started him against a DC United team that plays a high line. Did not make a ton of sense to me. Another thing that Doyle already pointed this out in his column, so I'm just going to defer to this is Matt Doyle's take because I don't want to plagiarize him, but I agree with what he said. They had a new shift tactically where Facundo Torres played centrally and Martin Ojeda played wide. I don't know why those two aren't flipped. Like, Facundo Torres, you need to cater to your best players, particularly when Luis Muriel ain't it right now. Facundo Torres has been their best player. He's consistently been at his best playing as an inverted right winger. You start with him there, and then you figure like, Ojeda, sorry, this is his team. You have to conform to him, right? Like, that's what it is for me. And I think they need to get Facundo Torres cooking again. Next tier, this is a big one. Could go either way. This is what I was alluding to a little bit before. There are a lot of teams here that, like, I don't know if they're good or bad, or I don't know if they're very good or okay, right? Like, this is pure uncut MLS where all of these teams, you could tell me they're going to finish 12th or they're going to finish like 3rd. I could see a pathway either way. 18 Minnesota United, 17 DC United, 16 Charlotte FC, 15 Portland Timbers, 14 St. Louis City, 13 CF Montreal, 12 Colorado Rapids. Going back to the top, Minnesota United, down 10. Down 10 feels harsh from last time. So maybe that's me overrating them from the last Power Rankings video. And for me, more so, it shows how meh and fluid this middle group is. Again, like, if you have them ahead of DC, I'm not going to argue with you. Same thing with Charlotte, like Portland, right? Like, I think that this group is so tight, and the next couple months are going to be very important of separating either positively or negatively. In the last 3 games, they have 1 draw and 2 losses, hence why I dropped them to 18th rather than some of the others. The Emmanuel Reynaud show, once again, this is why there was a big argument that they probably should have tried to sell him last winter, after he came back from his first Reynaud show, where he missed almost half the season just by going AWOL and not showing up and missing flights and deciding not to come home. Look, it's sad. There's got to be a lot of things at play here. I don't mean to diminish the personal side, but it's a job, there's a contract, and then there should be criticisms. And again, while you can empathize with the human being, you can also empathize with Minnesota United. And what the hell, man? Like, honestly, if you want to take a super optimistic look, this could end up being a good thing, right? Like, if they want to, they could pursue voiding his contract. They get the money back to get the DP spot open. They wouldn't get any dollars of their $5 million transfer fee that they invested, and they wouldn't have in the winter, I don't think either. But could you have gotten $2.5 million from a team in Brazil or Argentina? Maybe. And that's better than nothing right now, right? Like, let it be somebody else's problem. I don't know. But he doesn't really fit the game model that Khalid Al-Hamad and Eric Ramsey want. And the two of them have been pretty consistent in, I don't want to talk about right now, so I want to focus on the players here. He burned bridges pretty quickly in this new regime, man. It's sad. It sucks, but hey, you got to move forward. 17, DC United. They are the XG darlings, but they're not exactly the points won darlings. So I don't know what to do with that, right? Because I don't want this to just be, wow, the XG says blank. It's a smaller sample size. And again, like, there's finishing is a thing and luck is a thing that goes into these things. Like, just be like, you can acknowledge that something that you kind of got a nice roll on some things or a bad roll. Like, that doesn't just because the XG says that they should be good, like game states, all the other stuff, right? Like, who knows? Third most points dropped from winning positions at 10 points already this season. So maybe that's the talent catching up. Maybe that's they run themselves into the ground at the end, but they seem pretty fit by the end of the game, right? Like, they don't seem slower with this pressing system. I'm a little bit worried. Not a little bit. Let me rephrase that. I am very worried about the summer when the squads get thinner with injuries and absences and just the general wear and tear of a 34-game season. We'll see what Ali Mackay and that front office can do. I doubted them in the winter. I was wrong. This team is much better than I thought they were going to be. So again, I don't want this to sound like a negative that they're 17th and like, oh, they're dropping points and winning positions. Like, is that better than New England, who have been leading in exactly one game, right? Like, so, you know, the other side of this is the positive side. What if they bring in a senior DP now with the new roster rules? Things can get very interesting. Like, Benteke is a one-man wrecking crew on his own in attack. Bringing in a DP winger, DP 10, things can get really interesting. 16, Charlotte FC, up 4 from last time. As I said Monday, I really, really like the way Liel Abada looks in this team so far. I think it's exactly what they needed in terms of his profile, quality, directness, and to borrow, you know, the Clint Dempsey quote, he just tried shit, right? They needed that in the attack. They have a lot of solid players, I think, like Breck Diakhe, Scott Arfield. Like, they're fine. Kerwin Vargas tried shit too, but Liel Abada's just better, right? This team, I think, can take another jump. Like, I really like the structure and everything else that Dean Smith has put in. What they've done, they're ripe for a jump. Again, they have a U22 initiative slot that they're working on right now, maybe in the summer. And they have a DP spot, at least one, that they could use in the summer. And if they take a big swing on that, man, like, I'd be really, really excited to see where this team goes. The pessimistic view is, what if Abada doesn't make enough of a difference? What if Enzo Capetti doesn't, you know, regress to the mean positively with goal scoring? What if Kerwin Vargas stays inconsistent, whatever, blah, 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 and they dip, right? That's a realistic outcome, but I'm choosing to look at this more optimistically. Speaking of another team that I look at optimistically, Portland Timbers, number 15. Evander is elite, and when you have an elite number 10 in this league, you can go a long way. I really like the Miguel Rajo-Kamal Miller combination in central defense. I think that looks better for what Phil Neville's looking for and kind of the pairing themselves in the chemistry than Zach McGraw. I think Zach McGraw is a probably overqualified backup center back, and that's good. You need that depth. He's going to play plenty of minutes. But I do think that Araujo and Kamal should be the starting combination moving forward. For me, this is more a play on the talent. Like, look, they've been a little disappointing, very disappointing defensively. They've dropped some points. They've had some individual mistakes. But the optimistic view is you have an elite number 10. You have Jonathan Rodriguez, who I think is an above average or very good forward goal scorer. Can't call him elite yet because he's got to do it in this league. Santiago Moreno is very good. Anthony is inconsistent, but he shows flashes. And when he's kind of your fourth attacker, that's kind of exactly what you want. Juan David Mosquera, I've always been a big fan of. He struggles a little bit defensively, obviously. So they need to shore up the defensive side. But that attack is pyrotechnic, and they can add a DP this summer. So looking at Portland Timbers, yeah, the defense is bad. Hopefully they can fix it. We'll see, but there's a lot of upside here. Officially over the halfway mark here. St. Louis City, number 14, down 4 from last time. 5 draws from 8 games this season is a pattern. 7 points dropped from winning positions. That's 4th worst in MLS. There will be chances against this team. This team does need to add another attacker. They're working on that for the summer. I'm kind of surprised that they didn't get a deal over the line at any point over this winter since Giacchini was transferred. Again, I'm going to say a lot of the same things about this team. I love the game model. I love how consistent they are, how bought in they are. And again, just that baseline of being bought into your game model and everybody knowing what they're supposed to do and fitting this game model. Like, there's no possession-based players on this team that are being miscast. These are all pressing players, transition players. When everything is moving in the same direction, the floor is higher. Roman Berkey, can't expect him to have, best goalkeeper of the year season, but you can't expect him to be a top 3 goalkeeper. So overperforming expected goals against, I think, is baked into this game model because of how good Roman Berkey is. If Klaus gets back to first half of last season form, this team goes another level. If AZ Jackson takes another kind of leap, another step up, this team can go to another level. Like, I think that there's plenty of options. I do think that they need another attacker, but this is a very competitive, very good team. 13, CF Montreal. First home game, first win. I put them ahead of St. Louis because, look, they just beat FC Cincinnati at home. They had their first home game. They picked up 7 points on the road before that. I liked what I saw in terms of performance against Cincinnati and what they wanted to do, what they tried to do tactically. I think that was a much better representation of who they are than the more pragmatic first 6 games of the season on the road, which is exactly how Laurent Courtois should have opened this season. So that is not criticism at all. That's actually praise, right? Like, I love a manager who can adapt to situations. And look, you don't have to be changing your tactics or bending to the other team every single week, but you have to have some flexibility in the modern game. And Laurent Courtois showed that. Again, I talked about them on Monday, so I'm not going to go too deep, but just to reiterate, I really like a lot of this talent in this team. They have another level to hit if Matheus Kokoro can stay injury-free for a little while, and Dominic Yankov can do the same and get into the team. Yankov, Joseph Martinez, Renaissance, and Matheus Kokoro, that front three is really interesting. And guess what? Bryce Duke and Mahalo Opoku, they're really interesting too. Like, those are starting level players in the attack, so you can interchange, you can mix and match. I really like the CF Montreal team. Last one in this tier, Colorado Rapids, number 12, up 11, highs and lows. This is a case study in the fact that collectively, as fans, as media, as analysts, whatever you want to call it, we have a national TV bias and we have a week 1 bias. Think of the NFL. If you do something on Monday Night Football rather than a 1 p.m. Sunday game, like, that's the one that lasts much longer. And at the end of the day, both of those games technically mean the same in the standings and everything, right? We have a week 1 bias because we're so juiced for this season. There's so much hype. Okay, we're all trying to pay attention to every single team. Nothing goes under the radar. Colorado Rapids came out with all this offseason positive goodwill. They were down 4-0 at halftime to the Portland Timbers. So we've been down on them since. The next week, trying to check in on all the teams, they were winning 1-0 against Nashville at home, a very undermanned Nashville team. And they gave up a cheap penalty at the end and drew 1-1. So after week 2, I think a lot of people were out on Colorado Rapids. And just like that, 2 wins, 2 draws, and a loss. It's not like setting the league on fire, but that's really respectable. The tied for the most points gained from losing positions, which is impressive. And over the next 4 weeks, they're home to Dallas and San Jose. You got to make those points count. So Colorado, I like what they've done. I like Rafael Navajo's getting on the score sheet. Georgi Mihailovic is really settled in now. There's a lot of good pieces in this team, and again, I think that they all make sense together. Moving on down, next tier, could win a trophy. Number 11, Real Salt Lake, 10, Houston Dynamo, 9, Atlanta United, 8, FC Cincinnati, 7, Vancouver Whitecaps. I understand that I'm kind of forgiving. This means that I have at least 11 teams that I wouldn't be shocked if they won a trophy this year. And there's only a couple trophies to go around, and you could poke holes in all these teams. But again, knockout tournaments can be random. MLS can certainly be random. I think all of these teams have enough pieces where, again, probably not likely for these teams, right? There's only so many trophies to go around. But I wouldn't be shocked. Like, last year I was shocked when the Houston Dynamo, before the season, if you said they were going to win the Open Cup. So I think that's just a good example, right? Like, this can happen in this league, and I try really hard not to write off teams. I'm somebody who I'll take too long to be like, that guy should be fired, or that team sucks, or whatever, right? Like, I'm always on the slower end of that because of how many times we've just seen teams rebound, come back from the dead in this league. And if there's a lot of pieces there to like, that's why I keep it open. And again, like, I think that there are at least 11 teams in this league that can win a trophy this year. All right, enough for the spiel. 11, Real Salt Lake. Really, really disappointing that they did not beat the Columbus Crew at home this weekend. Those are 3 points that you absolutely have to have if you want to finish near the top of the conference. Evan Bush played really well before he went out injured, but it shouldn't have mattered. Andres Gomez, his final third execution and decision-making was really, really bad. I think him alone, they should have been up 3-0 at halftime, honest to God. Like, Bush made a couple really good saves, one of which he shouldn't have had. It was an easy pass across tap into Chicho Arango. Gomez underhit it, gave Evan Bush a chance to react and come out, close on the angle. And, like, again, my hopes for this Real Salt Lake team is top 3 in the West. That's why I'm really critical of this. You're playing a Columbus team at home, rotating 10 of 11 players because of CONCACAF Champions Cup. No Cucho. No Nagbe. Nagbe always plays, right? You got to win that game. You got to win that game with all those chances. That being said, this team is going to add a DP in the summer. That's the plan, at least. Chicho Arango is an elite top-end talent. He's absolutely a number 1 in this league. Diego Luna is continuing to improve. Like, he struggled a little bit this season, but I don't have any worries about him. I know that I just kind of crapped on Gomez. I think that he's very important for this team. I think he's a good player. He's a young player. Like, these inconsistencies happen. It's just unfortunate that they couldn't find a goal in another way last game. So I do like this Real Salt Lake team, but I'm digging them to 11 because if you want to be one of those top-class teams in the league, that's 3 points you got to have. Number 10, Houston Dynamo, up 11 from last time. Again, I was wrong. I spoke about this on Monday, so I'm not going to harp too long and just repeat myself. But I doubted this team. I looked at the roster. I didn't think that there was enough talent when Hector Herrera and Nelson Quinones went down, and even Sebas Ferreira, right? Like, what they're doing is so impressive. Look, one worry is that their expected goals is lowest in MLS, but, like, their game motto is to control games. It's not to kind of go up and down and have a bunch of shots. Like, their expected goals against is very, very low because they're controlling the game with possession. I think their expected goals is going to go up when Hector Herrera comes back. And again, the fact that they're first in the league in possession. They're doing this without Hector Herrera. Like, I wouldn't have believed it if you told me this 2 months ago. Like, I thought that he was absolutely the fulcrum, crucial to everything. It's even better that, like, it's just going to get better when he gets back because he's their best player. Coco Carrasquilla, phenomenal for them to sign him to a new contract. I mean, Basi Kowalczyk has been very good. He didn't look great in his first couple minutes at the end of last season, which, again, is why I give the benefit of the doubt. If you don't adapt and immediately start performing, it doesn't mean you're an awful player. It doesn't mean you're immediately a bad signing. Maybe you are. That's definitely an outcome. But, like, this happens all the time in MLS. So there's a lot of players that, you know, the Shaq meme. I'm sorry I wasn't familiar with your game. Ibrahim Aliou has been very good this year, and Kowalczyk. Those are two players that have been very important for them. Number 9, Atlanta United, down 6. I really like this team, but since our last power rankings, they have 1 win, Chicago, not that impressive, 2 draws, New York City and Philadelphia, and 1 loss, and that's Toronto. Not a great run. They're 25th in shots conceded, which isn't necessarily a bad thing depending on, you know, what kind of chances you're conceding. But it is a bad thing when your goalkeeper is subpar. Look, Brad Guzan is a legend. It's time to bench him for Josh Cohen. Like, that's, I don't have any deeper analysis than that there. For Atlanta, 8 of their preferred starting 11, as I see it, have started at least 6 games. I thought they'd have more points right now. So again, I'm still very high in this team, but I can't put them any higher than 9th because of what they've done over the last month. FC Cincinnati, number 8, they're down 4. This is another team that I'm very high on in general. Like, I think they're going to be fine, but I can't justify putting them ahead of some of the other teams that they're behind, right? Their attack is struggling, but I think this new defensive identity is very real. I'm a little worried about the attack. More worried than I thought I was going to be. Bupenza has looked bad, straight up bad. I don't know exactly how it gets fixed. Like, do you just have to hope that Lucho Acosta is MVP every single game? He could be. But look at Nashville. It's not working out with the Hani stuff. So they got to hope that Bupenza kind of figures it out. The chemistry gets better. They do have a U22 initiative slot that they want to use in the center forward. I think that's unfair to expect a U22 forward to come in and magically fix things. Like, that's just not correct expectations for that slot. But it could happen. We'll see. Acosta going supernova. Luca Oriano betting in a little bit more and doing his best Alvaro Barreal impersonation would help a lot. But look, the most importantly is Bupenza needs to improve. Someone on Twitter asked me about, is it time to think about a formation change? Like, I thought about it. I firmly don't think so. But you could walk down the road of what if they do 4-2-3-1, kind of keep it narrow, the pressing system. Lucho as a 10, Oriano on the right, and then Bupenza and Baird at center forward and left wing. Problem is they don't have any left backs like to play the system because, like, unless that Murphy can play left back, like as a weird, like, not overlapping, like, stay-at-home left back, I don't really think so. Because this team is built for the 3-4-2-1. Because Oriano cannot play as a left back on a back four, like, absolutely not. So the pieces are 5-2-1-2 or 3-4-1-2. Sorry, more attacking than they are defensive. And I think that is a really, really good look for this team. Like, I think that they're going to be fine. Number 7, Vancouver Whitecaps up 2. It's unfortunate that we're doing this after they lost at home to the LA Galaxy because that was a really disappointing performance and loss. And another worry, when you dig into their results, their wins, home to Toronto and Portland, at San Jose and Dallas. Home draw to Charlotte. The 2 of their 4 wins are bad teams. The other 2 aren't exactly hugely impressive either. So the squad fits super well. I think they have a very high floor, but I am starting to get worried about their ceiling. Like, when they were playing the Galaxy, I wasn't... Like, again, I think Gauld and Brian White and some of their other players, Pedro Vite, very good players, but, like, Galaxy have Pooch and Panso and Peck and Jovic. Like, I think that's going to be the story for Vancouver against a lot of these really good teams. And that's not to say that they can't push on and be the sum that's collectively above the individuals. Very possible. But I think that's the worry I keep coming back to this team, and it's why I kind of hesitate and keep them in this tier. Next tier, Apex contenders. No one. This is 4th, I think, power rankings going from January. Yeah, 4th. I've had Apex contenders as the final tier. None of these teams are Apex contenders. Every single really good team has too many flaws to be separated from each other. Maybe it's just early season malaise. Maybe we're just trying to pick teams apart. But there is not enough of a difference from these top 6 from the other teams to call them Apex contenders. And that's why I think the field is so wide open right now. So, the real category, Flawed top trophy contenders in MLS. Number 6, LAFC. Number 5, Inter Miami. 4, New York Red Bulls. 3, Philadelphia Union. 2, LA Galaxy. And 1, Columbus Crew. Let's go with LAFC. I'm not going to go long on here because I'm just going to say the same things I keep saying. They lead MLS in expected goals. They have top-end talent. They have really good players around the squad everywhere. Bouanga's going to be okay with scoring goals. I think Giroud is going to fit so well. Blah, 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 blah. I can only say the same thing so many times. And look, I'm either going to be right or wrong, but that's how I feel about this team. And it's going to take a lot more data points. And then again, it's going to have to be, I'm going to believe in Giroud, even if it takes him a little while to settle in. But that's what I got. All I can tell you is my takes. Sorry. Number 5, Inter Miami, down 3 from last time. They have not lost a game this year in which they have taken the lead, which is pleasantly surprising, but the defensive unit is not good. It's bad. Tied for 3rd most goals conceded in MLS. Their expected goals is great, 14.4. Their expected goals against, 12.3 is very bad. They have Messi, they have Busquets, Alba, they have all these guys, and like, push comes to shove in a knockout game, like, you're probably going to lean Miami for that reason, but like, the game against Kansas City was a great microcosm. Like, Tomas Aviles had some really high highs and some really low lows. The defensive unit was so shaky. It felt like anytime Kansas City had a little pace in transition or in the attack, I was like, oh my God, they're going to score. So it's been like, I don't know, like, the right back isn't good enough. Central defense depth is really light. They got to address that this summer. You know, the new rule changes could help them. Again, I know that everybody's going to joke about this, but and it's not like this is going to be a crazy thing. Like, I think they're going to have defensive problems no matter what. So we'll see what happens, how that ages over the season. Again, I think that they're definitely in this top tier contenders, but I have them at 5th right now for a reason. Number 4, New York Red Bulls. So the Red Bulls beat Miami at home without Messi. Beat them very easily. Lewis Morgan had a hat trick. Van Zier had 4 assists. The Red Bulls are ahead of Miami here, and I think that's on merit. But if there's a one-off playoff game at Red Bull Arena this weekend against Miami, who's picking the Red Bulls? So, like, that's kind of the worry, and that's why it's like easy to be drawn to Inter Miami, to LAFC, to the Galaxy, and kind of even the Red Bulls sometimes with Emil Forsberg, but it's not the same as Miami. Andres Reyes, I think, needs to be second choice now. I think he's a very good defender, but he and Sean Nealis do a lot of the same things. Noah Isla has to be the first choice starter at this point after that really, really silly red card. I think that he needs to be at a spot where he doesn't get the benefit of the doubt. He has to be winning his spot back. So I would start Isla and Sean Nealis. Can they sign a DP forward this summer? Please. If it's, again, Emil Forsberg, Dante Van Zier, Lewis Morgan, and another DP, this team can absolutely be one of the favorites in the league. And I haven't said that about the Red Bulls 2018, 2019. So this would be a wonderful time to capitalize on this momentum and this squad and these performances and this coach. So I really do hope that the team kind of pushes all in this summer. Number 3, Philadelphia Union, up 10 from our last one. One undefeated team in MLS, and that is your Philadelphia Union. They got a lot of draws, though, 4-7. Some of them came during CONCACAF Champions Cup congestion, and I'm not going to fault them for coming from behind at Atlanta from down 2-0 to make a 2-2 draw this weekend, right? Like, that's a good result. This is a Shield contending team. I didn't really think that going into the season, despite I'm always high on this team because of Jim Curtin, because of the talent, because of the front office, because of everything else. Baseline for them is benefit of the doubt. Signings I've never heard of, I assume they're going to work out. Homegrowns that I haven't seen it yet from, I assume that they're going to develop, right? I still didn't think that they were going to be a Shield contending team with CONCACAF Champions Cup, with the whole been there, done that. MLS Cup is their focus. But this team is good enough, and it's wide open right now towards the top of MLS. This team should be in the Shield race. Number 2, LA Galaxy, up 3 from last month. They kept a clean sheet in the last month, and they won again on the road. They beat Vancouver Whitecaps. That was an awesome performance. They lost to LAFC, their first loss of the season. They didn't play great, but they really still should have walked out of there with a result. That's very good signs. This might actually be a serious soccer team right now. Like, I haven't said that about the Galaxy in a very long time. Even when they were entertaining and good with Zlatan in the one Chicharito year, I don't think they were a serious soccer team then, right? Like, this is an adult team. This is great. All the pieces make sense. Joseph Pancil is incredible. Ricky Puig with runners around him. Who could have seen this coming? take the best passer in the league and with the best vision and put 2 runners in prime players around him, and maybe it'll work. Who could have seen it coming? Will Kuntz just doing the bare minimum, just doing the not even the bare minimum, because that's dismissive of what Will Kuntz has done. That front office has done an awesome job, but these things are obvious. Why did this take so long? So well done to the Galaxy. Well done to Will Kuntz taking over and installing this, and these 2 signings. Gabriel Peck looks really, really good too. A lot of the hype has gone to Panto because he's got into the team first. He scored first. So he's in his prime. Gabriel Peck looks really good too. So the LA Galaxy, for me, like, I struggled not to put them number 1, but the defensive issues kept me away from that. And because, number 1, your reigning MLS Cup champion Columbus Crew, talk about benefit of the doubt, this team's earned it, into the CONCACAF Champions Cup semifinals. They've had 3 draws in a row since our last power rankings, but 1 was a red card, and the other 2 were kind of rotated around CONCACAF Champions Cup. So I'm not going to penalize them and take them out of the top spot for that, because I still think this is the best team in MLS, and I still think this is the least flawed among the other contenders. The way that they control the game, top-end talent, defensive talent, midfield, everything, like, this team should be viewed as the favorite. Maybe it's a little harsh that I didn't have them in a category of their own, but I just don't think there's enough of a difference between them, the Galaxy, and Philly, particularly over the last month, to kind of separate themselves. But this team is kind of on the cusp of, like, being Columbus, and then if Miami kind of catches the good run of form, like, and Galaxy, Philly, like, these are what I think that are going to be the top teams. And we'll see. Look, they can add a senior DP this summer. Darlington Nagbe is no longer, like, can be bought down off a DP spot with his new contract. They've hit on a whole lot of their signings under Bezbachenko, Corey Ray, Neil McGuinness, Isatal, and Mark Nichols. Again, I said plenty of great things about this front office because they all deserve it. I'm very curious to see what they do with that DP this summer. Whew, all right. That's it. That'll do it for power rankings. My throat's a little hoarse, just nonstop monologue. I don't know how to talk without sounding like I'm yelling or talking with my hands. That's New Jersey for you there. I love doing power rankings. It's nice to just kind of run around the league and talk about all teams and do the research that goes into this. It's a nice snapshot. I like doing it once a month because I'd really be just repeating myself every goddamn week if we were doing it every week. I don't think that'd be good for anybody. So appreciate you if you stuck around this long. We'll see what else we got going on this week, but we're back to kind of regularly scheduled programming after a bit of a lighter week last week. So yeah, thanks for tuning in. Catch you next time.